Hey guys, I was at the Garden City event the other night. I know a few of you were there, but how special is it to be able to get together in a reunion like this? It's been 40 years, so give me across the board your
Very
feelings.
special.
It's
Very
very
special,
special.
yes.
It's incredible.
For the 40 years, but every year we come up for some kind of Met event. So I see these guys once a year, or maybe twice a year. Yeah, so yeah, it's not like we've never seen each other in 30 years or 40 years, you know.
What got to me the other night too was just how the incredible amount of love the fans were giving, and the standing ovations and the camaraderie. And Darryl's speech was so inspirational.
Yeah.
What was so special about that '86 team that 40 years later, you all are like, anything we could do together to get together, we're going to do? How special was that year for all of you?
Well, I think that we had a special team, and I think that we had such a vast majority, the personalities were so different, and the cultures were so different. And it's unusual to find that many different personalities come together and play in harmony. That's not to say we didn't have our little disagreements, because, you know, husband and wives have disagreements, but they stay together for a while, most of the time anyway. But we found a way to win. And I think that's the common thread right there. We all wanted to win, and we depended on each other. And it showed on and off the ball field. I mean, and I think that's what made this team so special. I mean, we were more than just a team. We were literally family. And I know that's an old cliche, but with that team, it's just so true. It is so evident even to this very day.
What?
We can hear him from there.
Also, if you look at the '86 team, it was 108-54, but yet there was a lot of heart-stopping moments that year. It was not as easy as that record would indicate. The Astros division series was pretty difficult. The Red Sox, the World Series, you guys were forgetting about the Buck. You guys were down 2-0 at home. Even clinching was not easy. I remember you guys got swept in Philadelphia those 3 games. Did that make it extra special? Were there moments when doubt did creep in when you were in those tough situations? I'm just curious.
Well, I think teams and players in general are defined by the expectations. And people expected us to win. And we expected us to win. And you mentioned the series where we could have clinched in Philly and stuff like that. Was there ever any worry about us clinching that? We cared about Philly. So they won 3 ball games. Big deal. Nobody cared about that. It was just a matter of what game we were going to clinch. That's what it was. There was never any fear there. So I know people would love for us to just walk into Philly and just take it over. But I think that we were so comfortable at that point that, granted, I think we might have been in a situation where we probably just took those games maybe a little bit for granted, because they really didn't mean anything. But when it came down to it, it's all about what we expected to do. And I think we accomplished that. When you mentioned the Houston series, and the other guys can, probably elaborate on a little bit, but Houston is the one team that, personally, I felt that would be competitive with us, because they matched us really well with their pitching. They had power, they had speed, they had a good defensive ball club. And it's not that I knew that we were better, but I knew that they would be very competitive in playing against us, in that series it showed.
And I just wanted to say it's a good thing you have a microphone.
You don't need a mic.
Couldn't have heard you.
Gentlemen, good to see you again after 40 years. Question about Game 6. At the end, when things didn't look so good, and Gary Carter at the plate, what was the mood in the dugout, or perhaps even in the bullpen? Or what were some of the thoughts? Was it frustration, still determination, we're going to get it done? Or was it, what could have been? What was the mood like at the very end there with Gary Carter up at the plate?
Go with the bullpen first.
I was out of the game. I was already out of the game, and I was in the clubhouse, and I was sitting in Charlie Samuel's office Charlie Samuels had a shelving, I don't know, half a dozen shelves, and he was a big football fan. He had a helmet from each NFL team. And so I don't remember exactly who was in there, but we picked our favorite helmet. Charlie Samuels had the Cleveland Browns. I had the Miami Dolphins, and I'm not sure who else was in there. And it was, for me, 2 outs, nobody on, and I thought it was over. I thought it was done. And then after Gary gets the hit, there's a belief. There's a belief there. And even though I was out of the game and, having some cocktails and beers and through a football helmet. And so, I stayed in that seat. I stayed in that seat until you talking about superstition? Yeah, I was superstitious. I stayed in that seat until the winning run crossed the plate.
Mookie in the dugout, what was it like in the dugout?
Unfortunately, I was in the dugout. It wasn't pretty, and I've looked at this video. I watched this video many times, and Davey didn't look very happy. Mel didn't look very happy, and I was maybe 2 seats down from Mel, and I wasn't very happy. And to be honest, my exact words I didn't tell anyone else this, but I was saying, we about to blow this. We about to blow this thing. Because I felt pretty good going at the beginning of the inning because we had Wally and Keith leading the inning. 2 of the best guys you ever want to start the inning. Wally and Keith. Wally's going to get on. Keith's a professional. He's a professional hitter, one of the best I've seen. But when they made it out, there wasn't a whole lot of hope there. But then Gary gets a hit, and you know how Gary is. He's always optimistic. He deserved the name Kid. He really deserved that name. And I'm saying, Kid, you happy? We know we're still down 2 runs. I'm saying that. I didn't tell anyone. I'm saying we're still down 2 runs. I didn't really. My attitude really didn't change until Mitchell got a hit. When Mitchell got a hit, now things look up a little bit, And from there, I think Boston felt the same way because man, it snowballed after that.
On the left.
This question's for Roger. Given how much the game has changed since the 80s, and specifically the 86 Mets, guys are bigger, stronger, pitchers are throwing harder. How do you think the Mets, your team, would have fared in the way the sport is being played now?
First of all, I'll have to disagree. They're not bigger and they're stronger and they don't throw harder. And there's a different way of measuring today than that we didn't have back in the day. That being said, I don't know today's game. Okay, I haven't watched a baseball game in 8 years since I got fired in Baltimore, and so I don't know today's game. So I can't compare it to the '80s. I know that much like Mookie said, we collectively played as a family. We had different personalities. We had platoons at 4 positions, and everybody was happy. And now it's a credit to Davey Johnson and his staff that guys got playing time. And the ultimate goal, and I know probably in every locker room in baseball nowadays, they say they want to win. But we, as a family, collectively, that was our goal, to win a baseball game, regardless of who got the credit and regardless of who got the win, the save, or the RBI. That was the accomplishment that we wanted to have for one day, and then we move on to the next day.
All right.
Jesse and Roger, what do you remember most about that game against the Reds, where you guys were flip-flopping between the outfield and coming in the pitch? Something like that could probably never happen today.
I couldn't hear you, Bill.
The Red game.
The Cincinnati Red game, where you guys
switched.
flip-flop. What did you?
Yeah.
Ray got in the fight.
Yeah, Ray got in the
You
fight.
played the outfield.
You know how that punch out. Yeah.
I had to do some punching out on that game.
I think you caught a ball in right field too.
I did. Roger had one in the outfield. It was. First of all, Roger and I, all the time, every part of the year.
Yes.
We always used to go out to the back part and see if we could hit the balls over the fence. That's all we did. We just wanted to have fun, and we were able to get our work in and all that stuff. So those are just good memories, and I just love hearing about that.
That was our conditioner who was playing the outfield, and when 5 guys, I think 5 guys from our club got thrown out after the fight, and 5 guys from the Reds, we did not have another position player. Again, Davey, he knows his players. Jesse and I, we shagged in the outfield during batting practice every day.
Yep.
And that was how we got our conditioning and to play the outfield. Jesse, I'm pitching to Tony Perez, and he hits a line drive to right field. Jesse catches it, and then later in the game, Eddie Milner comes up and lofts a soft fly to left center field, which I'm camped under, and Lenny stepped on my foot and stepped in front of me to catch it. And he said, "Just wanted to be sure, man. Just wanted to be sure, dude." And so, but again, it was we did what we needed to do to win. And whether it was play the outfield or whatever. And when we took it seriously, I mean, it wasn't a joke for us. I mean, it was serious to be out there because you have another 24 guys counting on you, and that's the thing that you really love to do is and competing against other teams. But you want to be counted on by your teammates.
On the left. This question is directed to Mookie Wilson. Mookie, I'm sure, and you, as you know, you've been stopped numerous times, countless times with regards to Game 6. What was that one interesting or maybe quite possibly hilarious story that someone shared about Game 6, about where they were in Game 6 with that at bat?
Man.
Talking about Mitch.
I've heard so many stories from women giving in labor and the husband telling her to hold up. The way I had an uncle that was on the George Washington Bridge, he wanted to jump off. And there's just so many stories, and every year, it's been 40 years, and every year I hear a different story. There's just so many, and it's great because it just shows how important that moment was. And I don't think any of us could ever predict or imagine that one instance in time in baseball history will bring that much joy to people and just create a lasting memory that they just tell the kids and grandkids about. I know I do. I talk about it all the time because my grandkids, they watch videos and they want to know about it, what this, that, and the other. So there's no one story that I can tell that overshadows the rest, but I've had quite a few childbirth stories and quite a few people wanting to commit suicide, but yeah.
On the right.
For the guy, I know Roger said he's not watching a lot of ball, but for the guys who are watching the Mets this year, like, what do you think when you watch them? They seem pretty close a couple years ago to maybe getting to where you were in '86 and '88. What do you think is missing? Where do you think it's gone wrong for them over the last couple of years?
Who's that for?
I said, I know Roger said he's not
I'm
watching
out.
too much.
Okay, well,
Anyway.
all right. You out on that one?
I'm out on that
You out on that one. Okay. At the risk of committing suicide, I think we look at the game, and I think what we try to do many times is we try to compare. And one thing that I hated when I was growing up in the major leagues is when veteran players would say, well, when I was playing, this is what we would have done when I was playing. I always thought that was annoying. But at this moment, I'm going to say that. I think it's a different time. I think the game has changed. The expectations are different. And I've said it before, people are defined by the expectations. The one thing I do know about ball players, from playing with players, really good players, and coaching and trying to develop younger players and experienced players, players will do what you demand of them to do. They will find a way to live up to their expectations. They will find a way. But when your expectations are low, you get what you get. You know, athletes are great athletes today, but a little less is expected of them. Every old ball player you have out there wants to win. Everyone. Not one player goes out there wanting to lose. The problem is how to win. And sometimes you have to be uncomfortable. And I think that's where we are.
On the left. With social media wasn't around 40 years ago, if it was around when you guys were playing, how many of you guys would have been suspended or thrown out the league?
You know. I'm next. Yeah, I pass.
Tim in the front.
You all have mentioned Davey a couple times. How vital was he to that team that you were in '86?
You know, from a position player, Davey was you can't underestimate the impact Davey had on this ball club. Davey was he let the players play the game. He was, as we call it, he was a player's manager, which means he stayed out of the way as much as possible. Davey had very little input when it came to what we did on the field. He made the lineup and expect you to go out and do your job. He had very few rules, which might have been a mistake, but that's another story for another day. But Davey was respected for the way he handled every player. He made a decision, like it, dislike it, didn't matter. Davey was his own man. He was his own manager. And I tell people right away, I had some conversations with Davey. And we talked about some things that we disagreed on. But at the end of the day, Davey was the manager. Davey was the manager. And we respected Davey for that. And I think that every player, you have to respect your manager. You have to respect your coaches. If there's some difference of opinions, then you find a way to find that middle ground where you can coexist and be a professional about it. But Davey was great. One of the dumbest things I thought Davey did was calling off workouts when we were down two games in the World Series. I thought that's the dumbest thing ever. I thought we needed to work out. But David's decision was the best decision. So
I'll say, I don't think anybody knew the players like Davey did.
yeah.
Like I said, we had four platoons, second base, third base, center field, and in the bullpen. And on top of those four platoons, we had Kevin Mitchell, who was your fifth infielder and fourth outfielder that goes on to win an MVP in San Francisco. He knew his players, and we don't win Game 7 if it's
Sydney.
this guy here at the end doesn't come in relief and pitch like he did. We don't win Game 7, and so I mean, not everybody was probably as happy as could be, but like we started the year, our ultimate goal was to win the world championship, and you know when you're the last one standing, that's the best feeling in the world.
All right.
Hey, Jesse, Mookie talked about the stories he's heard about child labor and the GW Bridge. You, of course, got the last out. What stories have you heard about people imitating that glove fling as kids, or where they were when it happened and what it meant to them?
I don't understand that question at all.
I just like, what stories have you heard about where people were when you got the last out in A6? People imitating your glove flip, right? What have you heard from people who were kids back then, 40 years on?
Well, I'd like to bring a story up that maybe many of you know this, but it didn't happen too long ago, but about Stephen McDonald. So I ended up giving the glove to him, and I know that people were saying, "Why would you do that, Jesse?" I said, "Well, I felt compelled to do that," and it gave him a chance to, live as long as he could. I've seen his kids now, and so I feel good about doing that and not worried about why did you give up the gloves, stuff like that. It all comes to the heart, and that's the way we are. I mean, he played his heart out through his whole career. He did too. He did too. I did too. Everybody here have been with us, so can't be any better than this.
Back end.
Mookie, can you please talk about getting out of the way of Stanley's pitch? And did you ever think that you were going to get hit by Stanley on that pitch? And also, do you beat Buckner to the bag anyway because his momentum was backing up?
All right, let's slow down. You know I'm 70 years old, right? Okay. All right. First of all, getting out of the way of the pitch is, I don't know, you guys was the baseball people. You've seen pitches and guys getting hit. If you watch that video, if you're not familiar with it, go back and watch it today. I don't think that ball's going to hit me if I don't move. I really don't think that ball's going to hit me. Well, why did I move out of the way? Because I was looking outside. I was leaning on Stanley's little sinker away. This is what I was looking for to hit. This is what I was expecting for him to throw. And when the ball came inside, I panicked. I'm just being honest, folks. I panicked. If I was smart, I would have stood still, let the ball hit me. At least I would go to first base and then let Hojo bring the gun in, you know. But that was I panicked. I just did what naturally do. You see the ball coming, you jump out of the way. Plain and simple. So that's about my jumping out of the way. It was nothing, you know, crazy about it. It was just my reacting or overreacting to a situation I thought probably wouldn't have been. Probably the ball wouldn't have hit me, as I said. Now we come to the other part as far as the ball down to first base. I mean, let's face it, I was playing with house money. Plain and simple. Score's tied. I'm about 30 pounds lighter now because I don't have the weight of New York on my shoulder. I told someone earlier, I was a situation right there where I got to have my wife have the car started just in case I made an out or struck out or something. I could jump in the car and go home. But when after a while pitch, I was so focused on doing one thing, and that's putting the ball in play. And when I hit the ball, it actually was a good pitch for me to hit. Being a left-hand hitter, ball middle, end, low, perfect pitch for a left-hand hitter. And I did the one thing that I didn't want to do the sinker away was I rolled over it. And when I rolled over it, I probably said some things I shouldn't have said. Fill in the blanks. But anyway, now I got to run. So I'm running. All this seems like it took a week because that's how time just kind of stood still. And I'm watching the ball bounce down the first baseline. And I'm running for no purpose, but I'm running. And when the ball goes between his legs, I say them same things again. And it was just one of those moments where you get caught up in the moment. And, I've never been so relieved in all my days because even when I went to the plate, I didn't feel pressure. I felt this release when that ball went through. This is outstanding.
Let's do a couple more questions. One on the front here.
Gentlemen, related to your thoughts about Davey, it's a famous story that he came into spring training and told the team, you're going to dominate.
Uh-huh.
What was your personal thoughts and maybe even collectively as a team about hearing that? Was it just like, is this man crazy, or is it just typical managerial, pep talk? Or what was it when he said, we're going to dominate this year, and you ended up doing so?
It didn't look so early. We were under 500 for a while, for that first week of the season.
It was, I thought David was crazy. I thought he was a fool, I mean, every manager in spring training, and I've had quite a few, Joe Torre, Frank Howard, George Bamberg. I've had quite a few managers, and all of them in spring training, they give you this big pep talk about how good you're going to be. And in honesty, most don't be lying half the time because they know what they have. In this moment, I knew we had a good club. I just didn't think, I thought it was kind of odd that Davey would say it in that manner. I thought that was kind of like, man, now you done put your foot in it. Now we got to go out and do something. But that was Davey. Someone said something to me earlier today, and I didn't think about it that way, but I don't think any other manager could have handled this club. But David was one of us. David was an extension of what this club was because he was willing to go out on a limb. We were willing to be ourselves, have fun, hot foots, play basketball, play soccer, hack and sack, whatever it took. We were not afraid to let people know who we were. Including when we got on the ball field, we weren't afraid to let people know what we were willing to do to win. David was no different. So that's what I'm about that. That's Davey.
Jesse, Roger, did you expect to dominate?
You got to remember, this was my second year in the big leagues, and I was a young pup. You have Mookie, you have Keith Hernandez, you have Ray Knight, you got Gary Carter on this ball club, and my goal my second year was the same as my first year. Keep your eyes open, your mouth shut, and your ears open too. So when I do remember that out on the field when he said that, and I just thought it was pretty cool. But I mean, it wasn't my place to have many thought because I was just trying to survive.
Do one more in the back.
The plane ride from Houston after you won the NLCS.
May I?
I'm
What's
the
up with
troublemaker.
the controversy? What is up with all these questions about
You got
controversy?
that one.
All right.
Do you think that carried over to the first two games versus Boston in the World Series?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There's a sign when we played. I don't know if it's still there. That was in every clubhouse, major league clubhouse that we went to, and says, "What you say here, see here, and do here, let it stay here when you leave here." So that will stay there
Yeah.
for me. For me.
Yeah.
Any last questions? And one last one for Jerry.
So I just want to ask you, Roger said how important your role was getting to in games, stabilizing things in Game 7. Like, what does it mean to you when you hear teammates say that or fans say that when they remember, there's a dramatic ending in Game 7, but if you don't have the handful of innings you have there, I think they're no-hit innings, you might not be there. What does it mean to you when people remember that and mention it to you?
Yeah. All I remember, I was very nervous because I didn't come out of the bullpen at all during the year. And I just told myself to lift your spikes up and don't fall flat in your face before you, because you had to run for the clubhouse. That's all I remember. Just as long as I got to the mound, I'll be okay. And then about the third or fourth warm-up pitch, I started to get into the rhythm. The nervousness kind of calmed down, and then the rest is rest.
Yeah.